All right, everybody, welcome back to another video here on the Dividend Doggo Show on YouTube, where I'm bringing you into the weekly portfolio review for M1 Finance. I'm also going to briefly talk about the Chinese stocks I hold in another account, and we're going to just kind of take an overview look at how the portfolio did for the week and what the weekly buys were for this week. So as you can see here, we have definitely come down a fair bit. If we go to the 1 month view, you can see we've dropped about 3%, 3.33%, about $20,000. In that time frame, though, we've earned $5,600 worth of dividends. And if I drop that down to the weekly view, you can see that we were just barely in the red, 0.03%. And we're going to take a look at how everything was going for the week. We did only earn about $10.13 in dividends for the week. That's not too great, but it'll perk up as the month goes on. The consumer slice was down just a little bit at minus 330 or 322. Healthcare was down about 700, and utilities were down about 1456. That's mainly just VST fluctuation. Como Money was just barely down, negative $30. That means SCHD and Berkshire Hathaway both kind of held up pretty well. Let's dive into that here real quick. You can see SCHD was down just slightly. Berkshire Hathaway was up just a little bit this week. So that's not too shabby for the week. Then finances, shockingly, they bounced up a fair bit. They were fighting to keep the portfolio green and just barely couldn't keep it green throughout the week. This is mainly off the back of some great JPM news. You can see almost all of the banks were up, Hingham being the lowest up this week. But overall, Bank of America up 4%. JPM had that great dividend announcement. They're giving us a fairly chunky pay raise there. It's absolutely beautiful to get those pay raises like that. I think it was just shy of like 10%. Then industrials, just barely in the green. Had some good, again, LMT raised their dividend. Good news in that direction. Overall, pretty solid. Caterpillar was down a little bit because of the Chinese construction news with the real estate holdings and stuff like that. We'll have to see how that plays out, but overall, I'm not too worried about it. I still think that CAT is a pretty solid stock to be in right now. I wouldn't call it a buy right now, but if it does drop significantly, I would definitely be looking to throw a little bit more money into that. Next, if we go into real estate, it was just barely down. We can take a look at that. Arbor was up, Vici is up, O Realty Income and Store Capital both down on just slightly. Not a huge shift for the week. Energy was down about 1% across the board here. That's mainly off the back of EPD going down just a little bit because VLO, Chevron, and Phillips 66, those were all up over 3 to 4%. So the oil sector was actually having a pretty decent week overall. Tech was just kind of stable there. Microsoft was down a little bit. Apple was up just slightly. And we're just kind of continuing to power through here. Monthly dividend stocks just barely up a little bit. PIMCO was up almost 1%, which is pretty nice to see. Stag was down about 4%. I'm not quite sure exactly what was going on with Stag. There's no real hopping news or anything particularly great, but Stag is one of those that I had wished that I had put some extra money into. As you can see, that my average price was $29 and it's appreciated up to $40. The PE ratio is just pretty wild on this one right now, and I haven't looked at the AFFO or the FFO on this one lately, but I need to dive into that and see if there's a potential buying opportunity for Stag. I know that Vici has a relatively low FFO right now. lower than most of the ones that I currently hold. So that would be probably my pick for the like REIT style holdings if I was going to throw money into that. So the one thing that I did want to mention is I want to know, the question for this week is, what is your savings rate goal? And how do you plan to achieve that? Because we're getting close to the end of the year here. Today is the 25th of September. We've got just about 3 months left of the year. And I'm very curious to see if you are hitting your savings rate goals for the year, if you're missing them just slightly. Did you even set them for the year? I've been reading a bunch about the 50, 30, 20 rule and the 10. Hold on, I'll tell you exactly what they are. The 10-20 rule and the 2010 rule. Sorry, I have those backwards. Basically, it says that you keep your consumer debt payments should take up no more than a maximum of 20% of your annual take-home pay, and that 10% of your monthly take-home pay, it shouldn't be higher than that. This rule basically just helps you decide whether you're spending too much on debt payments or if you should limit the amount of borrowing that you're willing to take on in the first place. So I find that kind of helpful in the savings guide because you're limiting your debt, which limits the amount of money that you're having to spend to pay that. And it kind of goes hand in hand with the 50, 30, 20 rule. It's basically just the rule of guidelines that set kind of how you should try to budget. You basically lump everything into 3 categories. So it's a simplified budget plan where you put 50% into your needs, and then you put 30% into your wants, and 20% to your financial goals. That basically kind of shows you how you should go about doing your budgeting for the entire month. And if you're doing 20% of savings, now that basically it's 20% of your net income, and that basically should be to allocating everything to make sure that you are actually above you're hitting your savings rate, but you're also doing investing with that money. So if you don't have a plan to hold up all of your monthly bills and keep everything going, it's really hard to kind of hit those savings goals and hit those investing goals. So I just briefly want to go over what that would kind of look like if you were to take that and you were to apply it to your actual plan. For example, in my case, I want to try to hit about $3,300 invested every single month. And if I was going to do that, I would need to make sure that if I was doing this 20% rule, that's a little bit difficult for me to hit. That would mean that 20%, I would have to be making like $14,000, $15,000 a month. For most people, that's going to be pretty exceptionally difficult to do because you're going to be needing to crimp quite a bit to hit the budgeting rule on that one. So in reality, I think our total savings rate for 2020 was right around 36%. So that should give you kind of a ballpark idea of where we personally landed on this. But if I was to be using this rule and say we made about $10,000 a month, that would mean that I would only be allocating $2,000 for savings. And when I'm going to pull you over and look at this real quick, I want to double check, make sure. Yeah, this came up. So if we're doing this by the 50, 30, 20 rule, we're buying our wants with 30%, And I don't particularly like that or agree with that. In our particular scenario, we could probably get away with doing it as a 50-20-30 budgeting plan and try to make sure that we were getting the financial retire early plan in place with that type of budgeting. But the 20% of savings just isn't quite enough, because this is lumping together your emergency fund, any loan repayments, and savings. So this type of budgeting is very simple for people to get started and might be great for someone who is early on in their journey. Being in my 30s, my wife and I want to try to retire by about 50, which means that we have to really kick a little bit of our wants into the savings bucket to make sure that we're actually allocating that properly. But overall, if you're lumping things together, if you're trying to do just a simple budget, this is a relatively good set of plans, especially early on, because you want to spend time when you're younger hanging out, shopping, dining, doing your travel, your entertainment, taking those trips so that you can get the most out of those experiences when you are young. And the entire plan for us to retire early is hopefully that in our 50s we'll still want to do a little bit of traveling, a little bit of exploring the world still for entertainment purposes. We used to love to go to the movies. Obviously the past year and a half has changed all of that. I haven't been to the theater in almost 2 years, so a lot of our entertainment budget got reallocated into streaming services and video games. So these things will kind of shift around as the years go by. But overall, making sure that your needs, your rent, your food, your transportation, and bills and utilities, all of that comes out of 50% of your income. That's overall a really good plan. Now, if you want to shift around your wants and your savings to hit other goals, that's okay as well, but this is a great way to at least get started. So in going over like these rules, the big reason I wanted to talk about this is the savings rate that you're getting at. You need to try to set that every year and try to attain that, and that's going to help you push forward to your financial independence overall. Building up the money earlier on, if you can hit a 20% savings rate in your early 20s to your early 30s, that's going to help you so much going into your 40s, your 50s, and your 60s. So for the week, we had a little bit of buys, and I'm going to bring you into the activity here. We had some dividends roll in. We had Bank of America, Lockheed Martin roll in. And I did have one buy that came in here, and that is going to be Costco. And this overall ended up being a total of 2.66 shares at a share price of $451. Now, I remember looking at Costco it feels like a few months back, and it was, expensive. It feels really expensive to buy. So when you're looking at it overall, if we bring you into a little graph here, if we were to have bought just earlier this year in March, you could have gotten this around the 311 mark on Monday, March 8th. But even going into the year, it was about 380. Its total appreciation is already up 23% for this year. Costco is one of those that just doesn't move. It's very, very stagnant, and it just kind of goes up. The market can fluctuate a lot, but overall, it's either staying the same or it's going up in price. Very rarely does Costco go on sale. So for me, buying those extra shares just helps bulk up the portfolio a little bit. Overall, for this week, we did have another referral bonus come in, which was at the $30 mark. So I guess the $50 promotion is done for this month. So keep that in mind going forward. I think it is $30 right now, and I really do appreciate people who use the referral links. They're down in the description below, where you can see my exact portfolio, the Dividend Doggo portfolio, and you can see another example of a starter portfolio, which is how I would begin an investing journey. So overall, I just want to bring you into the consumer pie where Costco is. That bumped Costco just up over Pepsi. I think that I would like to get Costco up to somewhere in the Home Depot range of about 20,000. I'm going to slowly do that by dollar cost averaging into it. I'm also going to pull Target up to about 10,000 sometime within the next 2 months, and we're going to raise both of those up a little bit. These just seem like relatively high quality stocks to be in, and overall, you can see the all-time gains on Costco it is up significantly. Overall, that's a pretty solid bump considering I just put $1,200 in. So this was about an actual gain of about 25%. And the money weighted average return includes the dividends as well. So that's a little bit harder to factor and explain. That's why these percentages look like that, is they are money weighted average for M1 Finance. So the other part I wanted to look at is they made some changes to M1 Finance, which is really cool in a lot of ways. The dividends, you can go in by the pie and you can look at your total earned dividends. And I believe this is considered earned once it's past the ex-dividend date. It's not necessarily what's been paid. This is absolutely awesome in a lot of ways to see this. And just a quick snapshot breakdown. This shows you over the time that I've held the account exactly what has been paid out. And it doesn't really show you where the dividends have gone or anything like that, but it does give you an idea of where your high earners are. And as you can see, obviously Mo dominates the consumer pie and has for several months. So that is a very, very high yielding position, and it can be relatively volatile, but it is up right now a pretty significant amount in gains. So I do think that is very interesting. When I pull out to the actual portfolio view, you can see the breakdown by the slices. And this shows you each individual pie, and then you can dissect each one down, which is a really cool feature. As you can see, healthcare and consumer are both right there. They're almost tied for the lead. And then we're followed up by utilities, finance, real estate, industrial, energy, monthly dividend stocks, tech, and the Como Money pie, which has only existed for a couple months. So we've only really had the one payment from SCHD, but we have another one coming in here really soon. So this is a pretty awesome little tool, little breakdown. It gives you a little bit of extra insight into your dividend income. And overall, I would love to also know what your passive income goals are. And do you think you're going to be able to achieve them by the time that you want to have them? So if you're planning on being financially independent by, say, 45, do you think you're going to hit that goal? I think this week has been definitely better than the last couple weeks, but I'm looking forward to getting back into some green weeks here. It's been a rough couple weeks for the stock market, and we've got some more dividends rolling in. We're going to reallocate that, and we're going to just keep buying, doing weekly buys and being consistent with everything. So I do want to say thank you very much for everyone who has watched so far and liked, commented, and subscribed. The channel is growing phenomenally well, in my opinion, and I'm very happy with it. If there's anything in particular you would like to see over the next couple of months or in the weekly review videos, let me know. I do want to bring you in at the very end here to show you Propeller. This is showing my next payment for SCHD coming in, which is in just a few days here. And this shows you the total portfolio. So this is the M1 Finance portfolio, and this is the Chinese tech stock portfolio. The yield is correct in here. The overall portfolio size is correct. And you can see that, It's got everything in here as far as the upcoming payments by date. You can sort them and see as they're rolling in. We've still got about just under $1,400 to collect for September. And then the projected income for October and November is also in there. I think December's might change a little bit with these dividend raises that are coming in. It may go up. But overall, we will see kind of how things go. Tencent has fluctuated pretty significantly. When I go in and I look at this, Tencent's the overall payment, the dividend per share is not actually correct in here. It should be a little bit higher. I'm not sure why that's not reporting properly, but they do only pay a yearly payment. So you can see the position has 7,093 shares in it currently, and the payment amount should be updated. It was about 1,400. I'm expecting it to be around 1,700 to 1,800 this coming year for 2022, but that's on a forward basis. So this income is a little bit low. It should be about 2,500, just below 2,500, or sorry, 25,000 in yearly income that's projected to roll into the portfolio for the next forward income of a 1 year time frame. So overall, I just want to say thank you again and show you kind of how things look. Overall, the portfolio is down pretty significantly over the past few months. However, that is just kind of the way stock investing goes. We're going mainly to keep raising up the forward income and keep that rolling forward. And we're just going to keep going steady with buying every week. And I want to thank you again for watching and have a great weekend. Dividend Doggo signing out.